Welcome guys again to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about quando usare essere, quando usare avere. Okay, so when are we going to use essere or when we are going to use avere in passato prossimo? In other words, which verbs require passato prossimo, which verbs require essere in passato prossimo, or which verbs require avere in passato prossimo. Now, which verbs require essere? Which verbs require essere? Now there are certain rules for the verbs which require essere. Rule number 1 or category 1, we can say better call it category 1, are those verbs which depict movement. Verbs which depict movement. For example, per esempio, verb andare, which means to go. Sono andato, partire. Sono partito, arrivare. Sono arrivato, entrare. Entrare. Sono entrato, uscire. Sono uscito, cadere. Sono caduto, tornare. Sono tornato. Now these are the verbs which depict movement and use essere as the helping verb, right? So you can say sono andato, sono partito, sono arrivato, sono entrato, sono uscito, sono caduto, sono tornare, sono salire, sono salito. So these verbs which depict movement, arrivare means to arrive, entrare means to enter, uscire means to exit, cadere means to fall, tornare means to return, salire means to go up. These depict movement and therefore use essere. Per esempio, io sono partito. Loro sono partiti. Ok. Category 2. Verbs which depict stationarity also use essere. For example, restare, which means to stay. Sono restato. Rimanere, which also means to stay. Sono rimasto. Stare. Sono stato. These are the verbs which depict stationarity and therefore use essere as the helping verb. Category 3. All reflexive verbs use essere as the helping verb in the passato prossimo. For example, alzarsi, svegliarsi, chiamarsi, vestirsi, svegliarsi, annoiarsi. All those verbs which end with si usually are the reflexive verbs, so they will use essere in the passato prossimo. Per esempio, mi sono alzato. Io mi sono alzato. There is additional article which is used with the reflexive verbs because you can think this literally translates to I woke myself up. I have woken myself up. I have woken myself up. Or it's like I call myself Luca. Mi chiamo Luca. Okay? Tu uses te. Tu ti sei alzato. Lui si è alzato. Noi ci siamo alzati. Voi vi siete alzati. You guys wake yourself up. You guys have woken yourself up. It's like that. The literal translation is this. Io mi sono alzato. Similarly, for all the reflexive verbs, mi sono svegliato, mi sono chiamato, mi sono vestito. Ok? Mi sono annoiato, mi sono alzato. All the reflexive verbs use essere as the helping verb. Now there are another category of the verbs which use essere. For example, morire, nascere, diventare, which means to become, nascere means to be born, morire means to die, uh, and dimagrire, which means to gain weight, ingrassare, which means to lose weight. They also use essere as the helping verb. Now you have a good list of those verbs which use essere as the helping verb. For example, andare, partire, entrare, arrivare, restare, rimanere, stare, alzarsi, svegliarsi, chiamarsi, vestirsi, nascere, morire, diventare, dimagrire, ingrassare. All these verbs use essere as the helping verb. However, there are some cases, some exceptions to the rule 1. To rule 1. There are some verbs which depict movement, but yet they use avere as the helping verb. They use avere as the helping verb. For example, camminare, which means to walk. Ho camminato and not sono camminato. Sono camminato. It's not correct. Sono camminato is not correct. Not giusto. It's correct. Nuotare, which means to swim. It depicts activity. Ho nuotato. It uses avere. I have swam. Okay. Also correre, which means to run. O corso. It's irregular. Okay, so these are the verbs which depict movement but still use avere as the helping verb. You get used to this by practice. I mean, you don't need to scratch your head up. You will get used to this by practice. These are the most of the verbs which will be asked in the Italian language A2 test. You need to remember only these set of verbs which I showed to you. Only these verbs you will get from only these verbs you will get questions in the Italian language A2. Now those verbs which use avere as the helping verb. All the transitive verbs use avere as the helping verb. Transitive verb is the verb in which action is reflected to the object. Verb is reflected to the object. Per esempio, hai mangiato la pasta. Mangiato answer the question chi cosa, while as intransitive verbs don't answer the question chi cosa. They answer the question dove, per esempio, not chi cosa. So the rule here is all the verbs which are transitive they use avere as the helping verb. For example, hai mangiato la pasta. Hai mangiato. Hai mangiato. Che cosa mangiato? What do you eat? La pasta. So we use hai mangiato. Hai comprato la mela. Hai comprato. Che cosa comprato? What did you buy? La mela. That's why we use hai comprato. Che cosa comprato? What did you buy? What did you buy? It gets reflected to this apple. Action gets reflected to this object. La mela. Mela is apple. Hai guardato il film? Did you watch? What did you watch? Il film? Che cosa? Hai guardato? Che cosa guardato? Il film? Did you watch the film? Okay. hai comprato, hai mangiato, hai finito. Che cosa ha finito? La lezione? Hai finito. Che cosa? La lezione. However, the passive voice, all the passive voice use essere as the helping verb. For example, I asked here, hai finito la lezione. I can also say, la lezione è finita. It's passive, so it will use essere as the helping verb. So when we have a passive voice, we use essere as the helping verb. Ok? La lezione è finita. Hai finito la lezione? Ho passato l'esame della lingua italiana. Ho passato, che cosa ha passato? L'esame. Ok? So all those transitive verbs, they always use essere, avere as the helping verb. I'm sorry. All the transitive verbs use essere, avere as the helping verb. Besides these, there are some verbs which may use essere or avere as the helping verb. It depends on the situation whether the action is reflected on the object or not. If the action is reflected on the object, it will use essere, it will use avere, and if the action is not reflected on the object, it will use avere. Some more verbs which use avere as the helping verb: ho iniziato, ho parlato, ho spedito, ho venduto, ok? Ho dormito, ho lavorato, ho parlato, ok, it's done. Ho lavorato, it's done. Ho che cosa? Ho parlato, ho lavorato, ho finito, ho finito. Finito will also use essere in some cases, okay? So it's not a problem. So I think you have now seen most of the examples of the verbs which will end in essere or avere, which will and you have seen the rules which will help you decide whether we use essere or avere as the helping verb. It's important to remember these rules, and it's important to practice a lot so that you get used to this type of used to such verbs, and it will be easy for you to decide. It will come by memory that you whether you are going to use avere or essere as the helping verb. Now these are the some rules or some tips and tricks which will help you to decide when to use avere or essere. The movement verbs like andare, partire, arrivare, they use essere. The verbs which depict stationarity, restare, rimanere, stare, and all the reflexive verbs use essere. Also, verbs like morire, to die, nascere, to be born, diventare, to become, they use essere. On the other hand, all the transitive verbs require avere as the helping verb. The intransitive verbs, they may sometimes need avere or sometimes need essere, which we have already seen. Some intransitive verbs like andare, they use essere, and few intransitive verbs like correre, camminato, nuotare, they use avere as the helping verb. Hope this is helpful to you all. I will see you in the next lesson. Also, you can comment which Italian lesson is difficult for you and let me know, and so I will be able to review it and post its videos on the YouTube.